You know how some of the best stories start with a completely random throwaway comment? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. This is the story of how a simple joke in a group chat spiraled into an amazing, spontaneous trip to Northern Thailand. It's all about friendship, a few hilarious bumps in the road, and the magic of just saying, why not?
We've all done it, right? You're staring at your screen, daydreaming about just packing a bag and going somewhere, anywhere. But how often does that what-if moment actually turn into a plane ticket? Well, for this group of friends, a casual, hey, what about Chiang Mai was all it took to light the fuse. So the person who kicked this whole thing off was a guy named Hendra. And here's the thing, he was, as the author says, the most unlikely candidate. I mean, this is a guy who'd bailed on a previous trip and had never, ever traveled abroad with this crew. So when Hendra was the first one to say, I'm in for Chiang Mai, you better believe everyone's ears perked up.
The group's reaction was, well, perfect. For his totally unexpected enthusiasm, Hendra didn't just get a pat on the back. Oh no, he got a promotion. He was instantly and unanimously christened Captain Thailand. And just like that, this wild idea had its leader.
Okay, so the timeline here is pretty funny. The idea pops up in July, the captain gets his title, and tickets are booked like right away. But then came the hard part, the waiting. They had to sit on this excitement for 6 long months until January 2024 finally rolled around and they actually touched down in Chiang Mai.
All right, so after all that waiting, they're finally there. They've landed, dropped their bags, and they hit the streets with one single, glorious mission. Get some real, authentic pad thai. And this is where the adventure really kicks off. And boom, right at their very first meal, you get this perfect little snapshot of the group. Captain Thailand tries his pad thai and says, it's too sweet. Meanwhile, our author is just cracking up because he's the kind of guy who adds extra sugar to his pad thai back home. It was a classic case of different tastes that just kind of set the fun, easygoing tone for the whole trip.
So as they're walking off that first meal, they start to really soak in the city. And a couple things really stood out. First, even though some parts felt familiar, Chiang Mai was just incredibly clean. And second, the sidewalks were wide and amazing for just wandering around. They also learned a very important travel lesson. For a group of 5, you're not fitting into a regular grab. Nope, it's a grab van or nothing.
For day 2, they swapped the city buzz for the quiet mountain air. This leg of the journey took them to a beautiful little village, introduced them to a driver who was an absolute legend, and ended with a show that was, let's just say, you wouldn't forget it. Day 2 was just jam-packed. It kicked off with a ride in a song thao, one of those iconic red trucks, to grab some breakfast. Then they hired a van to this peaceful mountain village called Mae Kampong. Their driver was so skilled on those winding roads, they nicknamed him Rambo. After a chill coffee break, it was back to the city for something completely different, a cabaret show. Okay, and that cabaret show, it was definitely a highlight, especially since for some of them it was a totally new experience. Just how memorable was it? Well, the author's main takeaway involves, and I'm quoting directly here, a rose squeezed by butt cheeks. Yeah, I think that pretty much paints a perfect picture of the kind of fun, slightly wild night they had. All right, next up, the crew decides to go on this super ambitious day trip over to the next province, Chiang Rai. The goal, a lightning-fast tour of 3 very different, very colorful, and very modern temples.
First up, the famous White Temple. Now, this isn't some ancient ruin. It's this stunning, intricate, modern work of art. But the wildest part is inside. The murals aren't what you'd expect. They're filled with pop culture icons. We're talking Superman and Pikachu right there on the wall. It's amazing. So after all that dazzling white, they headed to the Blue Temple. This one is all about that deep, vibrant blue color and just massive scale. Everything in there is gigantic. The statues are huge, the details are over the top, and it just creates this really powerful feeling that's totally different from the last place. And the final stop on this color-themed tour was the Black House. Now, this wasn't really a temple. It's a fascinating and kind of intense museum complex. It's a series of dark, dramatic buildings filled with art, animal hides, and all sorts of artifacts that give you this powerful, maybe even a little eerie look into the history of the old La Not Kingdom. So after that absolute marathon of a day, you can imagine they were starving. They found a place called Arroy D and just ordered a massive feast. Green curry, tom yum, fried chicken, drinks, the works. And the grand total for all 5 of them, 800 Thai baht. That's about $22 for the entire meal.
Just an incredible dinner for an unbelievable price. And just like that, they're on their final day. They did a last-minute temple run, mailed some postcards home, and found themselves with a few hours to kill before their flight. So they made one last spontaneous decision, and it turned out to be the absolute perfect punchline for the whole trip.
The Chiang Mai Zoo was super close to their hotel, and it just seemed like an easy, relaxing way to spend their last couple of hours. You know, a classic can't-go-wrong end-of-vacation activity. What could possibly go wrong? And they had one thing, and one thing only, on their minds. Pandas. The zoo's branding is all pandas. The logo's a panda. The signs have pandas on them. The group was genuinely hyped. Seeing a panda felt like it would be the perfect, cute, fluffy finale to their entire adventure.
The timing of this is just perfect comedic genius. They walk up, they pay for all 5 tickets, and it's only after the money has changed hands that the woman at the counter casually informs them that the main attraction, the one thing they came to see, the panda, had died. The shock and then the sheer absurdity of it just had them cracking up.
I mean, what do you do at that point? The tickets are paid for. So yeah, they went into a zoo that they knew for a fact had no pandas. They took a quick look at a rhino, saw some peacocks, and pretty quickly decided their pandaless journey was over. It was the most ridiculous and honestly the most fitting end to their trip. As they finally headed for the airport, the author summed it all up. Captain Thailand's excellent adventure had come to an end. But all of it, the laughs, the food, the weird twists, even the dead panda, it all added up to a collection of memories that made them all a little richer.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? This whole amazing trip happened because one guy, the unlikely candidate, just decided to say yes to a random idea. It kind of makes you wonder, right? What incredible story is just waiting out there for you if you're willing to just say yes?